Come closer, child of God. If tonight your heart feels heavy, if your mind will not slow down, this moment is for you. You are not here by accident. You are here to sleep in God's peace, not by escaping the world, but by resting in my presence. Let my voice replace the noise you have carried all day. Let this Jesus bedtime prayer guide your breathing, your thoughts, your rest. You do not need to solve anything tonight. You only need to listen and be held. If you are in a similar place, tired, anxious, searching for peace before sleep, type Amen in the comments. It is not just a word. It is a quiet way of saying, Lord, I am here. And if you long for nights like this more often, subscribe to Sacred Serenity. This channel is a place to rest, to listen, to heal, night after night. Stay until the end of this video. As you listen to every parable of Jesus, gently and unhurried, you may find your breathing soften, your thoughts slow, and your sleep come more easily than it has in a long time. Rest now. I am with you. The quiet before the words. Matthew 5. Before the first word was spoken, there was stillness. Not the empty stillness of absence, but the full stillness that comes when many hearts arrive carrying the same quiet hunger. A mountain stood beneath the open sky. The wind moved gently, as if it too had learned to slow down. People gathered, not rushing, not pressing forward, simply standing, sitting, waiting. Some had walked far. Some had come with questions. Some had come only because their hearts were tired and could not explain why. And in that stillness, before teaching, before instruction, before anything was named, there was rest. This is the quiet before the words. This is where Matthew 5 sleep begins, not with commandments, not with effort, but with presence. You can rest here. Imagine yourself among them. You do not need to be strong tonight. You do not need to be certain. You do not need to hold your thoughts tightly. Just let them loosen, one by one, like hands opening after a long day of holding too much. I looked out and saw the faces. Faces marked by work. Faces marked by loss. Faces marked by hope that had been disappointed before. And I did not begin by asking them to change. I did not begin by correcting. I did not begin by demanding. I began by blessing. Blessed are the poor in spirit, not those who have everything together, but those who know they do not, those who have reached the end of self-reliance, those who come empty, not because they planned to, but because life emptied them. Blessed are they, for the kingdom of heaven is already near them. If tonight you feel empty, you are closer than you think. Blessed are those who mourn, not only those mourning death, but those mourning what was lost, what did not happen, what could not be saved. Blessed are those who carry quiet grief into the night and do not know where to put it. They will be comforted, not rushed, not explained away. Comforted. Let that word settle slowly. Comfort does not demand understanding. Comfort stays. Blessed are the gentle, not the loud, not the forceful, not the ones who push their way through life, but the gentle, those who move carefully, who feel deeply, who are often overlooked. They will inherit the earth, not through struggle, but through trust. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, not perfection, not flawless faith, but a longing for things to be made right, a quiet ache for goodness in a broken world. They will be filled, not all at once, not loudly, but surely. This is Beatitude's bedtime, words meant to settle into the soul like soft light at the end of a long day. As the mountain held us, the night began to deepen. The words did not rush. They did not pile on top of each other. They moved slowly, like breath. Blessed are the merciful. those who forgive when it costs them something, those who choose compassion even when they are tired, those who are gentle with others because they know how heavy life can be. They will receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, not the flawless, not the untested, but those who seek honesty within, those who do not harden themselves against love. They will see God, not always with their eyes, sometimes with peace, sometimes with rest, sometimes with the quiet certainty that they are not alone. Blessed are the peacemakers, not those who avoid conflict at all costs, but those who carry calm into chaos, those who refuse to add more noise to a loud world. They will be called children of God. And blessed are those who are weary from trying to do what is right, those who have been misunderstood, those who have felt alone in their faith, those who have stayed gentle in a harsh world. Theirs is the kingdom of heaven. As these blessings were spoken, something changed in the air. Not excitement, not applause, but release. Shoulders softened, breathing slowed. Hearts that had been braced all day began to rest. This is why these words belong at night. This is why Sermon on the Mount sleep reading is not about studying, but about settling. You do not need to memorize anything tonight. You do not need to analyze. Let the words pass over you like a quiet stream. After the blessings I spoke of salt and light, but even those words were not commands. They were reminders. You already matter. You already carry value. You already bring something good into the world, even if you cannot see it tonight. Salt does not strive. It simply is. Light does not force. It shines. You do not need to prove your worth before you sleep. As the teaching continued, the mountain remained steady. The sky darkened gently. The listeners did not rush away. They stayed because something in them felt safe enough to remain. That safety is for you now. Let the day loosen its grip. Let unfinished thoughts wait until morning. Let worries step aside. These words were spoken to hearts like yours. Hearts that carry quiet weight. Hearts that long for rest more than answers. If your mind wanders, that is okay. If sleep comes early, that is okay. The blessing does not disappear when you close your eyes. Blessed are you, resting here. Blessed are you, listening without effort. Blessed are you, even if you do not feel blessed right now. The mountain does not move. The words do not rush. The night holds you gently. Stay as long as you need. Breathe slowly. Let peace settle. This is Matthew 5 sleep. Not a lesson to master, but a place to rest. Do not worry about tomorrow. Matthew 6. I saw the anxious eyes when I spoke these words. Not eyes of rebellion, not eyes of doubt, but eyes of people who had been carrying too much for too long. Eyes that had learned to stay open even at night. Eyes that scanned the future again and again, searching for safety, for certainty, for something solid enough to lean on. So I did not raise my voice. I did not hurry. I spoke slowly, because anxious hearts do not need pressure. They need permission to rest. This is where Matthew 6 worry sleep begins, not with instruction, but with gentleness. I said, look at the birds, not glance at them, not analyze them. Look at them. They wake without panic. They move through the day without holding tomorrow. They do not lie awake counting what might go wrong. They are fed, not because they are strong, not because they are clever, but because they are held within a care larger than themselves. You are worth more than many birds. Let that truth settle slowly, not as a statement to argue with, but as a place to rest. Tonight, you are not asked to solve your life. You are not asked to predict tomorrow. You are not asked to be ready for everything that might happen. You are asked to breathe. I said, consider consider the lilies. Not compare yourself to them, not try to become like them. Simply consider. They do not spin, they do not strive, they do not exhaust themselves trying to be enough. And yet, they are clothed with beauty they did not create. If even the flowers are seen, how much more are you seen? This is do not worry, Bible sleep, not as a command that adds weight, but as a release that removes it. Worry comes from love that has nowhere to rest. It comes from responsibility stretched too far. It comes from trying to hold tomorrow in hands meant only for today. I knew this when I spoke. I could hear it in the silence between my words, the sighs, the quiet shifting of tired bodies, the weight of unspoken fear. That is why I said, do not worry about tomorrow, not because tomorrow does not matter, but because tomorrow is not yours to carry tonight. Tomorrow will have its own breath, its own light, its own strength. But tonight belongs to rest. You do not need to rehearse what you will say. You do not need to prepare for every possible outcome. You do not need to fix what is not yet broken. You are held now. Let those words come closer. Held, not loosely. Held, not conditionally. Held, not until you fail. Held now, in this moment, in this breath. As the teaching continued, I spoke of daily bread, not bread stored for years, not bread measured by fear. Daily bread, enough for today, enough for this hour, enough for this night. Anxious minds want guarantees. Resting hearts learn to trust provision that arrives on time. If your chest feels tight as you listen, that is okay. You have carried a lot. Let the weight begin to loosen, not all at once, but gently. This is Christian anxiety relief scripture, not meant to rush healing, but to begin it. I said, who among you can add a single hour to life by worrying? The question was not meant to shame, it was meant to free. Worry does not extend life, it only makes the night longer. Peace does not erase problems, it gives you rest within them. As I spoke, the crowd listened differently, not leaning forward in effort, but leaning inward, into quiet. That quiet is for you now. If thoughts arise, let them pass. You do not need to chase them. You do not need to answer them. Like clouds crossing a wide sky, they can move on without resistance. Seek first the kingdom, I said, not as a task, not as another burden, but as a direction. The kingdom is not found in worry. It is found in trust. It is found in knowing that your life is more than what you fear losing. Everything you truly need will be added. Not always how you expect, not always when you demand, but faithfully. If tonight you feel tired of trying to be strong, you are in the right place. Strength is not required here. Awareness is enough. Listening is enough. The night does not need your vigilance. It needs your surrender. I watched the anxious eyes soften as the words settled. Some still carried questions. Some still carried pain. But something shifted. They were no longer alone with their worry. You are not alone either. As you lie listening, let your breathing slow. Inhale without urgency. Exhale without fear. Each breath is a small act of trust. You do not need to plan tomorrow tonight. You do not need to rehearse conversations. You do not need to replay mistakes. The birds are not worrying. The lilies are not striving. And you do not need to either. Sleep is not failure. Sleep is trust in motion. If sleep comes quickly, receive it. If sleep comes slowly, remain gentle with yourself. The peace does not depend on speed. This is Matthew 6, worry sleep, meant to stay with you beyond the words, beyond the night. I am not asking you to forget your concerns. I'm asking you to set them down, even for a little while, even for this night. You are held now. Ask, seek, knock. Matthew 7. Some knock loudly. Their hands are steady. Their voices are clear. They know exactly what they are asking for, and they ask without hesitation. Some knock with tears. Their hands tremble. Their voices break. They do not know what words to use, only that they cannot carry what they are carrying any longer. And some are too tired to knock at all. They sit by the door in silence, not because they do not care, but because life has taken so much from them that even hope feels heavy. Still, I hear them all. I heard the confident knock. I heard the broken one. And I heard the quiet presence of those who could not lift their hand another inch. This is where Matthew 7 sleep begins. Not with effort, not with perfect prayer, but with the assurance that being heard does not depend on strength. When I spoke these words, I was not speaking only to those who knew how to pray well. I was speaking to everyone who had ever wondered whether their voice mattered at all. Ask, and it will be given to you. Not because you earned it, not because you asked correctly, but because you are seen. Seek, and you will find. Not always immediately, not always in the way you imagined, but truly. Knock, and the door will be opened. Not slammed shut, not locked against you. Opened. As these words were spoken, I could feel the weight people were carrying. Questions without answers. Prayers spoken many times before. Hopes delayed so long they had learned not to expect much. That is why I did not say these words quickly. I let them breathe. I let them settle. This is ask, seek, knock, prayer. Not as a demand placed on tired souls, but as a reassurance given to them. Some had asked for healing, some for forgiveness, some for clarity, some for relief from nights that never seemed to end, and some did not even know what they were asking for. They only knew they were tired. To them I said, "Your Father knows how to give good gifts, not perfect gifts by human standards, but gifts that heal at the root, gifts that bring peace before they bring answers. Which of you," I asked, "if your child asks for bread, would give a stone?" The question was simple. The meaning was deep. You would not harm the one you love by ignoring their need, and neither would God. This is Bible reassurance for sleep, meant to quiet the part of your mind that wonders whether you are asking too much. You are not asking too much. You are asking while tired, and that is enough. As the night deepens around you, let this truth come closer. You do not need to perform. You do not need to persuade. You do not need to use the right words. The door does not open because of your technique. It opens because of relationship. Some doors open quickly. Some open slowly. Some open inward, changing the heart before changing circumstances. But the door is not closing tonight. If you feel like you have knocked for a long time with no response, rest. If you feel like you have stopped asking because disappointment hurt too much, rest. If you feel unsure whether anyone is listening, rest. I hear you. Even the prayer you did not finish, even the request you never spoke aloud, even the longing you buried because it felt safer not to hope. As I spoke, people began to understand something new. Asking was not begging. Seeking was not wandering blindly. Knocking was not an interruption. It was relationship. And relationship does not disappear when you grow quiet. Tonight, you do not need to force faith. You do not need to rehearse prayers. You do not need to stay alert. You can sleep. The door does not depend on your vigilance. It depends on my presence. As the teaching continued, I spoke of the narrow and the wide path, but even that was not meant to frighten. It was meant to guide gently. The narrow path is not harsh. It is quiet. It is simple. It is not crowded with worry. And the wide path is not wrong because it is wide, but because it is loud, full of striving, full of comparison, full of noise that keeps the soul awake. Tonight, you are invited to the quieter way, the way where you do not need to prove anything, the way where rest is allowed, the way where trust replaces tension. As you listen, if your thoughts drift, let them drift. You do not need to hold them tightly. They can return tomorrow if they must. The night is not the place for solving everything. The night is the place for being held. Ask, even if all you can ask for is rest. Seek, even if you are unsure what you are seeking. Knock, even if the knock is only your presence here. All of it is heard. The door does not open with a rush. It opens with peace. As your breathing slows, imagine the door before you, not imposing, not guarded, simply there. You do not need to push it open. You do not need to test the handle. It is already opening. Sleep does not mean giving up. Sleep means trusting that you do not have to stay awake to be cared for. This is Matthew 7 sleep, meant to stay with you long after the words fade. Rest now. The door is not closing tonight. I came for the sick. Matthew 9. I did not come for the strong, who pretend to sleep peacefully. I did not come for those who say they are fine, while their hearts remain restless through the night. I did not come for those who wear confidence like armor and never take it off, even when they are alone in the dark. I came for the tired hearts, the ones who lie awake long after the lights are out, the ones who replay conversations, decisions, regrets, the ones who wonder, quietly and repeatedly, if they are enough. Enough for others, enough for God, enough to be at peace. This is where Matthew 9 Bible sleep begins, not with strength, not with perfection, but with honesty. When I walked among them, I saw the difference immediately. There were those who believed they had it together, and there were those who knew they did not. It was the second group who stayed close, not because they were confident, but because they were weary, not because they were righteous, but because they were honest about their need. I saw them in their eyes, the ones who were tired, not just in body, but in spirit, the ones who had tried to be good enough for too long, the ones who had been told, in quiet ways and loud ones, that they were falling short. To them, I did not offer distance. I offered presence. A paralyzed man was brought to me, carried by others because he could not come on his own. Before healing his body, I spoke to his heart. Your sins are forgiven. The room grew tense. Some thought forgiveness should be earned. Some thought healing should be deserved, but they did not yet understand. Healing does not begin with proving worth. It begins with being seen. Tonight, you are seen. I saw the tax collectors, the ones avoided by polite society, the ones whose names carried judgment before they ever spoke. They knew what it felt like to be looked through instead of looked at. When I sat with them, others whispered, "Why would he eat with people like that?" I answered simply, "It is not the healthy who need a physician, but the sick." Those words were not meant to insult. They were meant to invite. This is Jesus heals the weary, not only the body but the soul that has been carrying shame for too long. If tonight you feel unworthy of rest, you are closer than you think. If you feel like peace is for other people, not for you, you are exactly who I came for. The weary do not need to perform. They need to lie down. I saw a woman who had been bleeding for 12 years. 12 years of weakness. 12 years of isolation. 12 years of being told she was unclean. She did not speak loudly. She did not interrupt. She only reached out, hoping not to be noticed. And yet, I noticed. Her touch was quiet, but her need was clear. "Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace." Peace came before explanation. Peace came before restoration of reputation. Peace came first. This is Christian comfort bedtime, where rest is not a reward, but a gift. As these moments unfolded, some grew uncomfortable. They preferred rules to mercy, distance to closeness, control to compassion. But the weary understood. They understood that I was not asking them to become strong first. I was asking them to come as they were. Tonight, you do not need to pretend. You do not need to be strong enough to sleep. You do not need to convince yourself that everything is fine. You are allowed to rest while tired. You are allowed to rest while unsure. You are allowed to rest while still healing. This is the kind of rest the world rarely offers. When the girl was declared dead, the house filled with noise, mourning voices, urgent movement, fear. I said, "She is not dead, but asleep." They laughed. They did not understand that sleep and restoration often look the same before awakening. I took her hand, gently, without spectacle, and she rose. Sometimes healing is dramatic. Sometimes it is quiet. Sometimes it looks like finally sleeping without fear. If tonight your body is tired, let it rest. If tonight your mind is restless, let it slow. If tonight your heart feels heavy, let it be held. You do not need to explain your pain. You do not need to justify your exhaustion. I already know. As I walked through towns and villages, healing the sick, I was never surprised by need. I was never annoyed by weakness. I was never impatient with slowness. The weary were never a burden. They were the reason I came. If you feel like you have nothing left to offer tonight, that is not a problem. It is an invitation. Come without effort. Come without answers. Come without pretending. Sleep does not mean you are giving up. Sleep means you are trusting that healing does not require constant vigilance. This is Matthew 9 Bible sleep, meant to stay with you as your breathing slows and your thoughts soften. If your mind wanders, let it wander. You do not need to pull it back forcefully. Gentleness heals more than control. If sleep comes slowly, that is okay. Healing is not rushed here. I did not come for the strong who pretend to sleep peacefully. I came for the tired hearts, the ones who lie awake wondering if they are enough. Tonight, you are seen. Seeds in the dark. Matthew 13. A seed does not rush to grow. It does not ask how long the darkness will last. It does not question whether the soil is worthy. It does not panic when light disappears above it. It simply rests, hidden, unseen, trusting that what was planted was meant to live. So do you. This is where parables of Jesus' sleep begin, not in the moment of harvest, not in visible success, but in the quiet work that happens when no one is watching, when the world has gone still, when the night has settled fully around the heart. When I spoke of seeds, I was speaking to people who understood waiting, farmers who knew that growth could not be rushed, families who had lived through seasons of lack, souls who had learned that not everything responds to effort. I said, listen, not strain, not analyze. Listen. A sower went out to sow. The seed fell in many places. Some fell on the path, some on rocky ground, some among thorns, and some fell on good soil. I did not tell this story to judge the soil. I told it to reveal the patience of God, because the seed is the same, the care is the same, the intention is the same. What differs is the season. This is parable of the sower sleep, not meant to keep the mind alert, but to quiet the anxious voice that wonders whether it is growing fast enough. The seed on the path was heard, but not held. Life moved too quickly, the heart too crowded. The moment passed. The seed on rocky ground sprang up quickly. There was excitement, energy, but no depth. When heat came, it could not endure. The seed among thorns grew but was choked. Worries, riches, the noise of life wrapped tightly around it, and the seed in good soil grew slowly, quietly, steadily, not overnight, not loudly, but truly. As I spoke these words, I watched faces soften. Some recognized themselves in the rocky ground, some in the thorns, some in the long, patient waiting of good soil. I did not correct them. I did not rush them, because the seed does not need scolding. It needs time. Tonight, you are not asked to grow. You are asked to rest. Let that truth settle. Growth does not begin with effort. It begins with being planted. You have already been planted. The darkness you feel is not abandonment. It is preparation. This is Bible meditation seeds meant to quiet the part of you that fears stillness. Darkness is not failure. Darkness is where roots form. As the story continued, I spoke of weeds among wheat, of patience that allows both to grow until the right time. Some wanted to pull the weeds immediately. They feared contamination. They feared imperfection. But I said, wait, because pulling too early can destroy what is still becoming. Tonight, you do not need to fix everything in yourself. You do not need to separate every fear from every hope. You do not need to resolve every tension. Let them grow together for now. Understanding comes later. Sleep is not wasted time. Sleep is sacred soil. As you lie listening, your mind may want to evaluate. Am I good soil? Am I growing enough? Why do I feel so still? Release those questions. The seed does not evaluate itself. It rests. I also spoke of a mustard seed. Small, unimpressive, easily overlooked. Yet when it grows, it becomes a place of shelter. Great things often begin invisibly. If tonight you feel small, unproductive, unseen, you are not behind. You are becoming. I spoke of yeast hidden in dough, not seen, not announced, quietly working through the hole. Transformation does not always announce itself. Often, it whispers. As these parables unfolded, something gentle happened. People stopped striving to understand everything. They began to listen with their hearts. This is how these stories are meant to be received, not with urgency, but with openness. Tonight, let my words fall gently, not as instruction to follow immediately, but as seeds to rest with. You may not remember every sentence tomorrow. You may not be able to explain what changed. That is okay. The seed remembers what to do. If your thoughts drift, let them drift. You do not need to pull them back sharply. Harshness does not help growth. If sleep comes, let it come. The seed grows while you sleep. This is not metaphor alone. This is truth. Your body heals while you sleep. Your mind reorganizes while you sleep. Your spirit breathes while you sleep. You are not missing anything by resting. As the night deepens, imagine the soil beneath you, steady, supportive, holding you without effort. You do not need to push roots down. They know where to go. You do not need to force light. It will come. Growth will come. Not tonight, but in time. That is not a delay. It is a promise. Some of the most faithful work happens in seasons where nothing seems to be happening at all. I told these parables because I knew people would grow discouraged by slow change, by unanswered prayers, by quiet seasons. I wanted them to know that silence does not mean absence. It means waiting soil. Tonight, you are allowed to be unfinished. You are allowed to be quiet. You are allowed to be in the dark without fear. The seed does not rush to grow. It rests in the dark first. So do you. As your breathing slows, let your body sink into rest. Let your thoughts soften their grip. Let the need to measure progress fade. This is parables of Jesus' sleep, meant to stay with you long after the words end, not as pressure, but as peace. The seed is safe, and so are you. Lost and found, Matthew 18. If you feel small tonight, remember this. The world is loud about what it values. It notices numbers. It measures success in crowds, in totals, in what can be counted quickly. And when you are tired, when you are quiet, when you are only one, it can feel as though you disappear. But heaven does not look the way the world looks. This is where Matthew 18 sleep begins. Not with power, not with recognition, but with gentleness, with a child placed in the middle, with a question about greatness answered by humility, with a reminder that the smallest is never forgotten. When I spoke these words, I was not addressing ambition. I was addressing fear, the fear of being overlooked, the fear of not mattering enough to be noticed, the fear that if you fall behind, no one will come looking. I called a child forward, not because children are impressive, but because they trust without calculation. They do not worry about being important. They are present. They are small without shame. Unless you become like this, I said, not smaller in worth, but smaller in pretense. Not weaker, but more honest. Heaven leans toward the humble. Tonight, if you feel unnoticed, that leaning is toward you. I spoke of stumbling blocks, of how easily the world trips the vulnerable, of how careless words and actions can wound quietly. I did not say this to frighten. I said it to protect, because heaven pays close attention to the ones who are easily hurt, the ones who are gentle, the ones who do not defend themselves loudly. If you have been wounded by what others dismissed, heaven has not dismissed you. Then I told a story. A shepherd had 100 sheep, not a small flock, not an insignificant number, and one wandered away. Only one. 99 remained, safe, accounted for, still together. But the shepherd noticed the absence. This is the lost sheep parable, not meant to increase guilt, but to dissolve fear. The shepherd did not say, "It is only one." He did not calculate loss. He did not weigh convenience. He went after the one, through uneven ground, through quiet valleys, through places where sheep do not usually go on purpose. He went because love notices absence. If tonight you feel like the one who drifted, not dramatically, not rebelliously, but quietly, this story is for you. Some wander because they are curious, some because they are wounded, some because they are tired. None are forgotten. When the shepherd finds the sheep, he does not scold it. He does not lecture. He does not demand explanations. He lifts it, carries it, rejoices. The weight of being found is not punishment. It is relief. This is Jesus' care bedtime, where rest comes not from fixing yourself, but from being carried. If you have felt far away, from others, from yourself, from God, distance has not reduced your value. Heaven rejoices over one, not because the one is rare, but because the one is loved. As the words settled, I could feel how deeply people needed this truth. They had lived under systems where only the strong were celebrated, where mistakes erased worth, where being left behind felt final. I spoke slowly so they could hear what I meant. Your Father in heaven is not willing that any of these little ones should perish. Not one. Not the quiet one. Not the anxious one. Not the one who struggles to believe. Not the one who feels invisible at night. Not you. As the teaching continued, I spoke of forgiveness, of how often it must be extended, not because harm is small, but because bitterness is heavy. Forgiveness is not forgetting. It is refusing to let pain define your future. But even forgiveness was framed in care. I did not ask the wounded to minimize their pain. I reminded them they were not alone in carrying it. If tonight you are holding hurt, you do not need to resolve it. You do not need to forgive perfectly before you sleep. You only need to rest. Rest does not deny pain. It gives it somewhere safe to wait. As you lie listening, imagine the shepherd's attention, focused, intent, gentle, not scanning crowds, not distracted by numbers, focused on one. If you are listening alone, that does not make you forgotten. If you are listening quietly, that does not make you less important. Heaven is attentive to the overlooked. If your mind brings up memories of being passed by, spoken over, left behind, let them soften. They do not have to be resolved tonight. The shepherd knows where to find you. This is Matthew 18, sleep, not as a lesson to master, but as a place to rest. Being small is not a flaw here. It is an invitation. The child stood in the middle. The sheep was lifted on shoulders. The one mattered. Even one sheep matters. Even you. As the night deepens, let your breathing slow. Let the need to be seen by others fade. Let the need to justify your worth loosen its grip. You do not need to make yourself visible to be valued. You are already noticed. If you drift into sleep while listening, that is not failure, that is trust. If you remain awake, that is fine too. You are not being measured by how you listen. The care does not depend on your awareness. Some nights feel long because the heart is still searching. Some nights feel quiet because the heart has already been found. Wherever you are tonight, you are within reach. The shepherd does not tire. The search does not stop. The carrying does not weaken. If you feel small tonight, remember this. Heaven notices what the world overlooks. Even one sheep matters. Even you. Rest now. The first will be last. Matthew 20. You do not need to race anyone tonight. The day has already asked enough of you. The comparisons, the quiet measuring, the unspoken pressure to arrive sooner, achieve more, prove worth before rest. All of it can loosen now. Night is not a competition. Rest is not a reward for those who finish first. This is where Matthew 20 Bible sleep begins. Not in ambition, not in striving, but in release. When I told this story, I was looking at faces that knew labor well. Hands rough from work, bodies tired from long hours, hearts that carried the silent question, does my effort matter if no one notices? The kingdom of heaven, I said, is like a landowner who went out early in the morning to hire workers for his vineyard. Early morning, before the sun had fully risen, before strength had been tested. Some were hired then, agreed upon a fair wage. They went to work with energy, with expectation, with confidence that their effort would be counted. Later in the day, the landowner went out again. Mid-morning, midday, afternoon. Each time, he saw people still standing there, not idle by choice, but overlooked, passed by, still willing to work, still hoping to be chosen. And even near evening, when the light was fading, he went again. "Why have you been standing here all day long doing nothing?" he asked. "Because no one has hired us, not because they were lazy, not because they lacked skill, but because they had been unseen. Go into the vineyard," he said. The work was the same. The sun was lower, the hours fewer. And when evening came, when the workday ended and the workers gathered to receive their wages, something unexpected happened. The ones who were hired last were paid first. They received a full day's wage. As I spoke, I could feel the tension rise in the listeners. Some leaned forward, some frowned, because the world is accustomed to reward based on hours, on output, on visible effort. Grace unsettles systems built on comparison. Then the ones who were hired first came forward. They had borne the heat of the day. They had worked longer. They expected more. But they received the same. And dissatisfaction stirred. This is the vineyard worker's parable, not told to dismiss effort, but to heal hearts exhausted by measuring themselves against others. "Friend," I said, "I am not being unfair to you. Did you not agree to this wage?" The question was not about fairness alone. It was about trust. Is your eye envious because I am generous? That question echoes softly at night. Comparison steals rest. It turns gratitude into tension. It transforms effort into resentment. Tonight, you do not need to calculate your worth. You do not need to measure how far others have gone. You do not need to replay moments where your work seemed unseen. I see effort without applause. I see the hours no one counted, the care you gave without recognition, the patience you practiced when quitting would have been easier. Grace is not earned by exhaustion. This is Christian rest meditation, where rest is not something you deserve after proving yourself, but something you are allowed because you are held. The first will be last, and the last first. These words were not meant to confuse. They were meant to free you from the race, free you from the lie that faster is better, free you from the belief that being unseen means being unvalued. In the kingdom, arrival time does not determine worth. Presence does. If tonight you feel behind others your age, behind expectations, behind your own plans, you are not disqualified. You are still invited into the vineyard. And if tonight you feel ahead, tired from carrying responsibility too long, you are also invited to rest. The landowner did not withhold wages from those who came early. He simply refused to reduce generosity for the sake of comparison. Rest is not taken away because someone else arrives later. As you lie listening, let this truth soften the tight places in your mind. You are not late. You are not early. You are here. That is enough. The vineyard at night is quiet. The work is done. Tools are set aside. Hands release what they have been holding all day. Night does not ask for productivity. It asks for trust. If your thoughts return to unfinished tasks, let them rest beside you without engaging them. They can wait. If your mind begins to compare, gently bring it back to breath. Comparison does not belong in rest. The kingdom is not a ladder. It is a table. Everyone is fed. No one is rushed. As the story settled among the listeners, some were comforted, some were challenged, but all were invited into a different way of seeing value. Value is not measured by how long you labored. It is measured by love. Tonight, you do not need to race anyone. You do not need to catch up. You do not need to get ahead. Sleep is not falling behind. Sleep is trusting that what truly matters is not lost while you rest. This is Matthew 20 Bible sleep, meant to quiet the restless voice that says you must do more to be enough. You are already enough to rest. If sleep comes quickly, let it come. If it comes slowly, remain gentle with yourself. Grace does not rush. The vineyard is quiet now. The landowner has not left. The invitation remains. Rest. The vineyard and the sun. Matthew 21. Some listened with open hearts. They stood quietly, not interrupting, not defending themselves, not preparing arguments in advance. They listened the way the night listens, without judgment, without urgency, without the need to respond immediately. Some resisted. Their arms were crossed inside their thoughts. Their minds were busy forming conclusions before the story had finished. They heard the words, but their hearts remained guarded. Still, the invitation was given. This is where Matthew 21 parable sleep begins, not with agreement, not with certainty, but with presence, not with decisions made under pressure, but with listening that allows the soul to rest where it is. I spoke to them in the language of vineyards, because vineyards understand patience. They know seasons. They know waiting. They know that fruit cannot be forced by command. A landowner planted a vineyard. He prepared it carefully. He dug the soil. He built a wall. He placed a watchtower. He did not neglect any detail. Then he entrusted it to tenants and went away. The vineyard was ready. The care had already been given. All that remained was faithfulness. When harvest time came, the landowner sent servants to collect what was due. But the tenants did not respond with gratitude. They responded with resistance. Some servants were beaten, some were driven away, some were killed. Still, the landowner sent more, not because he was unaware of the danger, but because his desire for restoration was greater than his fear of rejection. This is the Vineyard Parable Bible, not meant to stir fear in the listener, but to reveal the patience of God. Again and again, the invitation was extended. Finally, the landowner said, "I will send my son. They will respect my son." The son came not with force, not with armies, not with threats. He came with identity. He came as relationship. But when the tenants saw the son, they said to one another, "This is the heir. Let us seize the inheritance." And they drove him out, and they killed him. As I spoke these words, the air grew still. Some understood immediately. Some felt uncomfortable. Some felt exposed, not because they were being accused, but because the story revealed something true about the human heart. We resist not only what threatens us, we resist what asks us to change. And yet even here the story does not end in rage. The question was asked gently. When the owner of the vineyard comes, what will he do to those tenants? The listeners answered according to justice. They spoke of consequence. They spoke of removal. But the deeper truth was not about punishment. It was about rejection and patience that continues even when rejected. This is gentle gospel reading, where the story is not rushed to its conclusion, but allowed to breathe. Tonight, you are not asked to decide where you stand. You are not asked to judge the tenants. You are not asked to explain your beliefs. You are only asked to listen. Some hearts open quickly. Some open slowly. Some remain guarded for a long time. The invitation does not depend on speed. As the night surrounds you, let the story unfold without pressure. Some listeners that day were afraid of losing control. Some were afraid of losing authority. Some were afraid of being wrong. Fear often disguises itself as certainty. But the story was not told to shame fear. It was told to invite trust. The stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. These words were not spoken loudly. They were spoken steadily. Rejection does not cancel purpose. Resistance does not erase intention. Even what is pushed aside can become foundational. If tonight you feel like something in you has been overlooked, a hope, a calling, a quiet faith, it is not wasted. Cornerstones are often rejected before they are recognized. As the teaching continued, the crowd shifted. Some leaned in closer, some stepped back, some stayed silent. Still, the invitation remained. This is the rhythm of the kingdom, not coercion, not force, but invitation. Night is not the time for argument. Night is the time for listening. If parts of the story feel uncomfortable, you do not need to resolve that discomfort now. Discomfort does not mean danger. It often means growth, waiting for the right season. The vineyard teaches this. Fruit does not appear the moment a seed is planted. It grows slowly, quietly, without announcement. So does understanding. As you lie listening, allow your thoughts to soften. You do not need to decide what you believe tonight. You do not need to define where you stand. You are allowed to simply be present. Some listened with open hearts. Some resisted. Still, the invitation was given. That invitation is still given now. If your heart feels open, rest in that openness. If your heart feels guarded, rest in that honesty. There is no penalty for listening quietly. The Son was sent not to condemn the vineyard, but to restore it. That restoration does not happen through pressure. It happens through patience. As the night deepens, let the story remain with you like a soft echo. You do not need to interpret every detail. You do not need to carry the weight of meaning. The words are enough. The vineyard stands. The invitation waits. The story continues. This is Matthew 21, Parables, Sleep, where even resistance is held gently, and listening itself becomes rest. Tonight, you are not asked to decide, only to listen. And listening, in this quiet space, is already enough. The wedding invitation, Matthew 22. The feast is prepared. The table is already set, long before anyone arrives. The lamps are lit. The seats are waiting. Nothing is missing. This is where Matthew 22 sleep begins. Not with effort, not with qualification, but with invitation. When I spoke of a wedding banquet, I was speaking into tired lives, lives crowded with obligation, lives measured by duty, productivity, and the quiet pressure to always be ready, always capable, always correct. A king prepared a wedding banquet for his son. This was not a small gathering. It was not an afterthought. It was a celebration prepared with intention, abundance, and joy. And when everything was ready, servants were sent to call those who had been invited, not to test them, not to examine them, simply to call them. But they refused to come. Some ignored the invitation. They returned to their fields, their businesses, their routines. Others reacted with irritation, even anger, as though being invited were an inconvenience. They did not say the feast was unworthy. They said they were too busy. This is the quiet tragedy at the heart of the story. Not rejection born of hatred, but rejection born of distraction. This is the wedding banquet parable, spoken not to accuse, but to awaken. Because many do not refuse rest because they do not want it. They refuse because they believe they cannot afford it. Work feels necessary. Control feels safer. Staying busy feels responsible. But the feast waits. When the invitation was refused, the king did not cancel the banquet. He did not diminish the celebration. He did not grow bitter. He widened the invitation. Go to the streets, he said. Invite everyone you find, the good and the bad, the prepared and the unprepared, the expected and the overlooked. And the hall was filled. This is Christian invitation rest, where rest is not reserved for those who have proven themselves, but offered to those who are willing to come. Tonight, you are not being evaluated. You are not being measured. You are not being weighed. You are being invited. Lay down your excuses, not as an accusation, but as relief. Excuses are heavy. They carry the weight of expectation. They whisper that rest must wait until everything is finished. But the feast does not wait for perfection. It waits for presence. When I told this story, I could feel the resistance rise in some hearts, not because they did not want joy, but because joy felt unfamiliar. Rest can feel dangerous to those who have survived by effort. Trust can feel risky to those who have learned to rely only on themselves. But the invitation was not withdrawn. It was extended further. As the hall filled, the king noticed someone without wedding clothes. The detail was important, but not for the reason many assume. This was not about fashion. It was not about appearance. Wedding garments were provided. To refuse the garment was to refuse transformation. To say, I will come, but I will not be changed. I will accept the benefits, but not the belonging. Even here the story is gentle. It reminds us that rest is not merely stopping activity. It is allowing ourselves to be held differently. Tonight, you are not asked to transform yourself. You are asked to allow yourself to be received. If that feels uncomfortable, you are not alone. Many find it easier to work than to receive, easier to strive than to rest. But the feast is not earned by effort. It is entered by willingness. As the night deepens around you, let this story soften your breathing. You do not need to analyze it. You do not need to resolve every question. Stories at night are meant to settle, not to stir. The wedding banquet is not loud here. There is no rush, no pressure to perform. Only light, only warmth, only presence. If your mind wanders to tasks undone, let them rest at the edge of the room. They are not needed here. If your heart begins to resist, that is okay. Resistance often comes from long seasons of carrying too much alone. The invitation does not withdraw when resistance appears. It waits. The king did not say, "Only the worthy may come." He said, "All is ready." That readiness did not depend on the guests. It depended on love. This is why Matthew 22 sleep belongs at night, because night exposes what striving has hidden. The fatigue, the quiet loneliness, the longing for a place where you do not have to explain yourself. The feast is that place. Come, rest. Not tomorrow, not when you are better, not when you have resolved everything. Now. Rest does not mean irresponsibility. It means trust. It means believing that you are allowed to receive without first proving your value. As you listen, imagine the sound of voices settling, the clink of dishes, the soft hum of a room filled with people who did not earn their place, but accepted it. You are among them, not because you did everything right, but because you came. If sleep begins to pull at you, do not resist it. Sleep is one way the body accepts invitation. If wakefulness remains, let it be gentle. You are not missing anything by resting in the story. The feast does not end when you close your eyes. It continues quietly. The table remains set. The light does not dim. The invitation does not expire. Many are invited. And tonight, that includes you. Lay down your excuses. Lay down the need to be perfect. Lay down the belief that rest must be earned. Come, rest. This is Christian invitation rest, where listening itself becomes participation and sleep becomes trust. The feast is prepared, and you are welcome. Watchfulness in the night. Matthew 24. Night has always been a place of waiting. Long before lamps and watches, before hours were measured and time was named, night taught humanity how to pause. The fields grew quiet, voices softened, movement slowed, and those who remained awake learned something the day could never teach, that not everything is held together by effort. This is where Matthew 24 sleep begins. Not in alarm, not in urgency, but in awareness that waiting does not mean abandonment. When I spoke about watchfulness, I was not speaking to create anxiety. I was speaking to people who already carried too much of it, people who believed that if they stopped watching, something precious would be lost, people who believed that rest was dangerous and vigilance was the only protection. So I spoke carefully. I spoke of signs and seasons, of days no one could predict, of moments that would arrive quietly, like a thief in the night. But listen closely. The night itself was never described as the enemy. The danger was not the darkness. The danger was forgetting where to place trust. This is watch and pray scripture, not as a command to stay tense, but as an invitation to stay anchored. Watchfulness is not the same as fear. Watchfulness is not sleeplessness. Watchfulness is not living on edge. True watchfulness is a settled heart, a heart that knows where it belongs even when the future is unclear. I said, keep watch, because you do not know on what day your Lord will come. These words were not meant to steal sleep. They were meant to free the soul from false control. You are not asked to predict the hour. You are not asked to calculate outcomes. You are not asked to remain alert through exhaustion. You are asked to trust. The servant who knows his master is faithful does not panic when night falls. He prepares what is needed and then rests. Night does not require your vigilance, it requires your surrender. As you listen now, let the idea of waiting change shape. Waiting is not gripping the future tightly. Waiting is releasing it into hands larger than your own. This is night Bible reading, where the words are meant to settle deeper than thought, deeper than analysis, deeper than fear. In the quiet of Matthew 24, I spoke of people who were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, unaware of what was coming. The warning was not about ordinary life. Ordinary life is not wrong. The warning was about living disconnected from trust. When life is lived as though everything depends on you, rest becomes impossible. But when life is lived in relationship, night becomes a place of peace. Two men will be in the field. One will be taken and the other left. Two women will be grinding with a hand mill. One will be taken and the other left. These images were not meant to terrify. They were meant to awaken awareness. Awareness does not mean anxiety. Awareness means presence. Tonight, you are present. You are listening. You are breathing. You are not alone in the dark. That is enough. I spoke of a homeowner who would have stayed awake had he known when the thief was coming. But the deeper message was not about staying awake forever. It was about knowing where safety truly lies. Safety does not come from sleeplessness. It comes from belonging. If tonight your thoughts drift toward what might happen, what could go wrong, what you should be prepared for, let them soften. Preparedness is not tension. Preparedness is trust practiced daily. The faithful servant is not praised for never resting. He is praised for caring well during the day and trusting his master at night. This is where fear often misunderstands faith. Faith does not mean staying alert every moment. Faith means knowing you can sleep without losing what matters most. As the night deepens around you, let your body rest into that truth. Your breath does not need supervision. Your heart does not need constant guarding. Your life does not depend on your ability to stay awake. I spoke of watchfulness because I knew how easily people confuse control with care. Control exhausts. Care sustains. When you care, you prepare what you can and release what you cannot. Night is the place of release. If you are still awake, allow your eyes to soften. If sleep comes, receive it without guilt. Sleep is not neglect. Sleep is trust made visible. This is Matthew 24, sleep, where the future is held gently and the present is enough. Some nights feel heavy because the mind believes it must stay alert. Some nights feel restless because the heart fears missing something important. But nothing meant for you will be lost while you rest. Nothing required of you will arrive without grace to meet it. I said, therefore keep watch. But I also said, do not let your hearts be troubled. The two belong together. Watch with trust, pray with surrender, sleep with peace. This is watch and pray scripture lived quietly, not loudly. Prayer at night does not require words. It can be breath. It can be stillness. It can be simply remaining present. As you listen, imagine a house at rest. Doors closed, lights dimmed, everything in its place. Nothing is being guarded aggressively. Nothing is being ignored. It is simply safe. That safety is offered to you now. You do not need to stay awake to be faithful. You do not need to worry to be prepared. The night has always been a place of waiting. But waiting does not mean fear. It means trust. Sleep now. The one who keeps watch does not sleep or slumber. And because of that, you can. Oil for the lamps. Matthew 25. Some prepared in quiet ways, not loudly, not visibly, not in ways that drew attention or earned praise. They prepared in the small, unseen spaces where no one was watching and no one was counting. This is where Matthew 25 sleep begins, not with urgency, not with fear of being left behind, but with the gentle understanding that faith often grows best in silence. When I told this story, night had already fallen in the minds of those listening. They understood lamps, they understood darkness, they understood the importance of oil, because without it, light fades quietly and suddenly. 10 virgins took their lamps and went out to meet the bridegroom. All 10 were invited, all 10 were waiting, all 10 had lamps. From the outside, they looked the same. This detail matters, because from the outside, faith often looks identical. Attendance looks like devotion. Words look like preparation. Intentions look like readiness. But preparation is not always visible. 5 were wise. 5 were foolish. Not because some were loved more than others. Not because some were chosen and others rejected, but because some had prepared quietly for the waiting. The wise took oil in jars along with their lamps. Extra oil, unnoticed oil, oil that would only matter later. The foolish took their lamps but took no extra oil, not because they were careless, but because they assumed the waiting would be short. This is the quiet danger of spiritual exhaustion, assuming strength will always last, assuming light will always stay bright, assuming rest can wait. As the bridegroom was a long time in coming, they all became drowsy and fell asleep. This line is important. All of them slept. Sleep was not the problem. Rest was not the failure. Waiting was long. Bodies grew tired. Eyes grew heavy. Sleep was allowed. This is faith preparation bedtime, where rest is not a lack of faith but part of it. At midnight the cry rang out, "Here's the bridegroom, come out to meet him." All the virgins woke up and trimmed their lamps. The wise were calm, the foolish were anxious, not because the moment was different, but because their preparation was. The foolish said to the wise, "Give us some of your oil, our lamps are going out." But oil cannot be borrowed at the last moment. Readiness cannot be transferred when the night deepens. Inner preparation cannot be replaced by outward urgency. This is not a story about exclusion. It is a story about attention. Attention given slowly, care practiced quietly, faith nurtured over time. The wise answered, not unkindly but truthfully, "There may not be enough for both us and you. Instead, go to those who sell oil and buy some for yourselves." The delay was costly. While they were gone, the bridegroom arrived. The virgins who were ready went in with him to the wedding banquet, and the door was shut. Later the others also came. "Lord, Lord," they said, "open the door for us." But he replied, "Truly I tell you, I do not know you." These words are often misunderstood. They are not spoken in anger, they are not shouted, they are spoken as truth. Knowing is not recognition alone, knowing is relationship nurtured over time. Oil is not panic at midnight, oil is quiet faith carried through ordinary days. This is 10 virgins parable, not meant to steal peace but to redirect it. Because fear-driven vigilance burns oil quickly, quiet trust preserves it. Tonight, rest is your oil, not frantic preparation, not anxious striving, not staying awake out of fear of missing something. Rest, the kind of rest that keeps the lamp steady, the kind of rest that allows the flame to burn without flickering. The story was told not to frighten the weary, it was told to protect them. Because burnout is not holiness, exhaustion is not readiness. Faith is not proven by how long you can stay awake. Faith is proven by where you place your trust when you sleep. As the night deepens around you, let that truth settle gently. You are not being asked to stay alert with tense eyes. You are not being asked to rehearse readiness in your mind. You are being invited to rest wisely. The oil of faith is not stored in effort alone. It is stored in surrender, in quiet prayers whispered without urgency, in choosing trust when control feels tempting, in allowing the soul to breathe. If your life has been loud, rest becomes oil. If your days have been crowded, stillness becomes oil. If your heart has been stretched thin, gentleness becomes oil. Preparation does not always look like action. Sometimes it looks like letting go. As you listen, notice your breath. It comes and goes without instruction. It does not rush. It does not hold. That rhythm is preparation. The wise did not stay awake anxiously. They slept when sleep was needed. But they had prepared for the waiting. They trusted that light would be needed later, not just now. If tonight you feel like you have little oil left, this is not a moment of judgment. It is a moment of care. Oil can be replenished, not through panic, but through presence. This is Matthew 25 sleep, where the lesson settles slowly and softly. The lamps are not inspected tonight. The waiting is not tested tonight. Tonight is for rest. You are allowed to sleep without fear of being unfaithful. You are allowed to rest without worrying that you will miss what matters. What is meant for you will not be lost while you trust. The door closes not because people rest, but because preparation is neglected over time. And preparation is not busyness. Preparation is intimacy. Preparation is listening. Preparation is letting the heart stay connected. As the night wraps around you, imagine the steady glow of a lamp. Not bright enough to impress, not dim enough to disappear, just steady. That steadiness is what quiet faith looks like. Some prepared in quiet ways, not loudly, not visibly. They prepared by trusting that God works even while they sleep. Tonight, rest is your oil. Let it fill you slowly. Let it sustain you gently. Let it burn without strain. This is faith preparation at bedtime. Not anxious, not hurried, not loud. Just present. And that is enough. Still waters and seeds. Mark 4. Storms obey even when you do not. The wind does not ask permission to rise. The waves do not consult your readiness before they swell. And the heart, when night falls, often remembers everything it tried to forget during the day. This is where Mark 4 sleep begins, not by denying the storm, but by discovering who speaks within it. I spoke to them beside the water. They knew the sea well. They knew how quickly calm could become chaos. They knew the fear of waves that rise faster than skill can respond. That is why I spoke of seeds and storms in the same breath. Because life often feels like both at once. Uncertainty above, quiet growth beneath. A farmer went out to scatter seed, not carefully placing each grain, not measuring soil with precision, but scattering generously. Some seed fell on the path, some on rocky places, some among thorns, some on good soil. I had told this story before, but now, beside the water, its meaning deepened. Because the sea understands seeds. Seeds fall unseen. They disappear beneath the surface. They surrender to darkness before they ever rise toward light. The farmer sleeps. He wakes. Night passes into day, and the seed sprouts and grows, though he does not know how. This is not laziness. This is trust. This is Jesus Peace Sleep Audio, where peace is not something you manufacture, but something that happens when you stop interfering. The seed grows while you sleep. Let that truth settle gently. You do not supervise the seed at night. You do not pull it upward by force. You do not stand guard over the soil. You sleep. And while you sleep, something faithful is happening beneath the surface. This is why effort is not the same as care. Care prepares the soil. Effort tries to control the outcome. Peace does not need effort. Later that day, as evening came, I said to them, "Let us go over to the other side." It was a simple invitation, not a warning, not a test. They took me in the boat, just as I was, and as we went out, the sky darkened. The wind rose, the waves grew. A furious squall came up, and the waves broke over the boat so that it was nearly swamped. They had faced storms before. They were fishermen. They knew water. But this storm felt different. I was in the stern, sleeping on a cushion. This detail matters. I was not pretending to sleep. I was not unaware. I was resting. They woke me, fear sharp in their voices. "Teacher, do you not care if we drown?" Fear often sounds like accusation, not because love is absent, but because trust feels fragile when the storm grows loud. I got up. I did not shout at them. I did not explain. I rebuked the wind and said to the waves, "Quiet, be still." The wind died down. It was completely calm. This is calming the storm, Bible, not as spectacle but as reassurance. The storm did not need to understand me to obey. It did not need persuasion. It did not need force. It obeyed because authority was present. "Why are you so afraid?" I asked. "Do you still have no faith?" The question was not condemnation, it was invitation. Faith is not the absence of storms. Faith is knowing who is in the boat. Tonight you may feel like the storm is louder than your prayers. You may feel like your thoughts are waves breaking over your calm. You may feel like sleep is impossible because the mind refuses to be still. But peace does not require your effort. The sea did not calm itself. It responded. The seed does not grow itself. It responds. Your heart does not have to force peace. It only has to remain present. As the night deepens around you, imagine the boat rocking gently instead of violently. The water smoothing itself. The wind settling. Not because you controlled it, but because it was spoken to. Storms obey even when you do not. That means the storm does not define you. It does not determine the ending. It does not cancel what is growing quietly beneath. The disciples were terrified and asked each other, "Who is this?" Even the wind and the waves obey him. The question lingered, "Who is this?" The answer was not given in words. It was given in calm. That calm is still offered now. If tonight your body feels tense, let it soften. If your breathing feels shallow, allow it to deepen slowly. You do not need to command peace. You are allowed to receive it. This is Mark 4 Sleep, where stories are not rushed and silence carries meaning. The seed grows while you sleep. This is not metaphor alone. Your body repairs itself in sleep. Your mind organizes what the day scattered. Your spirit rests from constant vigilance. You are not falling behind by resting. You are cooperating with what you cannot see. Effort tells you that you must stay awake to survive. Peace tells you that you are already held. The farmer does not panic because the seed is invisible. He trusts the process. The disciples panicked because they forgot who was with them. Tonight, you are not alone in the boat. If thoughts rise like waves, let them rise without resistance. They do not need to be chased away. They will settle when spoken to gently. Quiet. Be still. Those words were not only for the sea, they were for the soul. As you listen, let the sound of the words become like water smoothing stone. Over time, without force. If sleep begins to come, welcome it. If wakefulness remains, allow it to be calm. Peace does not measure success by speed. This is Jesus, peace, sleep, audio, where even storms become part of the story, and rest is not delayed by chaos. The seed is growing, even now, even here, even while you sleep. Storms obey even when you do not. The seed grows while you sleep. Peace does not need effort. It only needs trust. And trust, tonight, looks like rest. The stone the builders rejected. Mark 12. What the world overlooks, God upholds. What is passed by without pause, dismissed without comment, set aside because it does not fit the shape of success. These are often the very things heaven steadies its weight upon. You are not forgotten. This is where Mark 12 sleep begins. Not with recognition, not with approval, but with the quiet assurance that value does not depend on visibility. I spoke to them again in parables, not because truth was hidden, but because hearts were guarded. Stories slip past defenses. They enter gently. They rest where arguments cannot. A man planted a vineyard. He put a wall around it, dug a pit for the winepress, built a watchtower. Then he rented the vineyard to tenants and went away. The care was complete. Nothing was lacking. The vineyard was not abandoned. When harvest time came, he sent a servant to collect from the tenants some of the fruit. But the tenants seized him, beat him, sent him away empty-handed. He sent another servant. They struck him on the head and treated him shamefully. He sent another. They killed him. Still, he sent more. Some they beat, some they killed. The patience of the owner was not ignorance. It was mercy stretched to its limit. This story was not told to frighten the listener. It was told to reveal how easily humans reject what challenges their control. Finally, the owner sent his beloved son. He had one left to send. They will respect my son, he said. But the tenants said to one another, "This is the heir. Come, let us kill him, and the inheritance will be ours." They took him, killed him, threw him out of the vineyard. As the story unfolded, the silence deepened. Some recognized themselves in the resistance. Some felt the discomfort of truth touching pride. Some felt the quiet sorrow of recognizing how often love is refused. Then I asked them a question. What will the owner of the vineyard do? They answered with justice. They spoke of consequence. They spoke of removal. But the story was not finished. I said, "Have you not read this scripture? The stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. The Lord has done this, and it is marvelous in our eyes." This is rejected stone scripture, not as poetry alone, but as revelation. Builders are skilled people. They know structure. They know alignment. They know what fits and what does not. But even skilled eyes can misjudge worth. They rejected the stone because it did not meet their expectations. Perhaps it was the wrong size, the wrong shape, the wrong appearance. They did not see what it could bear, so it was set aside. Yet that stone, overlooked, unwanted, discarded, became the cornerstone. The stone that carries weight, the stone that determines alignment, the stone upon which everything else rests. What the world overlooks, God upholds. If tonight you feel set aside, not loudly rejected, but quietly overlooked, this truth is for you. Not everyone who is ignored is unimportant. Often those overlooked are simply misunderstood. This is Bible identity rest, where identity is not shaped by acceptance but by purpose. You may feel like you do not fit the structure others are building. You may feel too quiet, too slow, too gentle, too different. That does not mean you are useless. It may mean you are foundational. Cornerstones are not admired for decoration. They are trusted for strength. They sit low. They are often unseen. They bear weight without recognition. If your life feels heavy, it may be because you are carrying more than you realize. The religious leaders heard this parable and understood that I was speaking about them. But this message reaches further. It speaks to anyone who has been overlooked in a family, passed by in a workplace, ignored in a room full of voices. It speaks to those who have done the right thing quietly and watched others receive praise. It speaks to those who wonder at night if their existence matters. You are not forgotten. God does not measure value the way builders do. Builders look for symmetry. God looks for strength. Builders look for polish. God looks for faithfulness. Builders discard what seems weak. God chooses what can bear weight. As the night deepens around you, let this truth settle. You do not need to prove your worth tonight. You do not need to reshape yourself to fit someone else's plan. Your place is already known. The cornerstone does not argue for its position. It is placed. It does not compete with other stones. It supports them. If tonight you feel tired of trying to be noticed, rest. Rest does not mean giving up. Rest means trusting that recognition is not your responsibility. The vineyard owner did not abandon his vineyard. The rejection did not change the plan. Even rejection was woven into redemption. This is Mark 12 sleep, where stories settle slowly and meaning unfolds without force. If your thoughts wander, let them wander. You are not being tested on comprehension. Let the words wash over you like quiet assurance. You are not forgotten in the dark. You are not overlooked in the night. The stone rejected was not wasted. It was repositioned. And the Lord did this, not the builders, not the critics, not the crowds. God did this, and it is marvelous. If you feel small tonight, that does not disqualify you. If you feel unseen, that does not diminish you. Cornerstones are not celebrated when they are placed. They are trusted when the weight comes, and weight always comes. You may be carrying responsibilities no one else sees. You may be holding together spaces that would collapse without you. That matters, even if no one says it. As you lie listening, let your breathing slow. Let the need for validation soften. Your value does not rise and fall with opinion. This is Bible identity rest, where identity is held steady, not shaken by neglect. The builders rejected the stone. God upheld it. You are not forgotten. And tonight, that truth is enough to rest on. Sleep can come without fear. The foundation is secure. You are held, not by recognition, but by purpose. Rest now. The listening heart. Luke 8. Some hearts are tired soil. They have held too much for too long. Too many footsteps. Too many seasons without rest. Too many expectations pressed down until even good seed struggles to breathe. Tonight, let yours rest, not produce. This is where Luke 8 sleep begins. Not with demand, not with measurement, but with permission. When I spoke beside the water, people gathered with different kinds of listening. Some leaned forward, hungry for words. Some stood at the edge, unsure whether to stay. Some listened with their ears while their hearts wandered elsewhere, already weighed down by what the day had taken from them. I knew this. That is why I spoke gently. A farmer went out to sow his seed, not because the soil had proven itself, not because the ground was ready, but because sowing is an act of hope. The seed fell along the path, hard ground, compacted by constant traffic. Words heard but unable to sink in. The seed fell on rocky ground, quick to respond, eager at first, but shallow roots could not survive the heat. The seed fell among thorns. It began to grow but was slowly crowded. Worries, riches, the pressures of life wrapped tightly around what was trying to become something new. And some seed fell on good soil. It grew. It produced. Not because it tried harder, but because it was able to receive. This is listening to Jesus' parables, not as instruction to improve the soil, but as compassion for soil that has been worn thin. I did not tell this story to shame the ground. I told it to explain the heart. Not every heart is ready to produce fruit tonight, and that is not failure. Some hearts need rest more than growth. If tonight you feel like the path, walked on, pressured, hardened by routine, you are not broken. You are tired. If tonight you feel like rocky ground, responding quickly but burning out just as fast, you are not shallow. You are exhausted. If tonight you feel like soil full of thorns, crowded by worries that refuse to quiet, you are not unfaithful. You are overwhelmed. And if tonight you feel like good soil, steady, open, quietly receptive, you are not better than the rest. You are simply in a different season. Seasons change. As I spoke, I said, "Whoever has ears to hear, let them hear." Not everyone heard the same thing. Some heard a story about farming, some heard a warning, some heard an invitation. But the invitation was this: listen without striving. This is gospel bedtime meditation, where the heart is allowed to listen without pressure to respond correctly. Later, I explained the parable to those who stayed close, but even the explanation was gentle. The seed is the word of God. The problem was never the seed. The seed was always generous. The challenge was the weight carried by the soil. Tonight, you are not asked to clear every thorn. You are not asked to soften every hard place. You are not asked to deepen roots by force. You are asked to listen. Listening does not mean agreeing with everything you hear. Listening does not mean understanding everything immediately. Listening means allowing the words to be present without resistance. As the night deepens, this kind of listening becomes easier. The mind slows, the body releases its guard, the heart becomes less defensive. This is why these words belong at night. During the day, everything demands response. At night, you are allowed to receive. If your thoughts wander as you listen, that is not distraction. That is the soil settling. If sleep comes before understanding, that is not failure. That is trust. The seed knows what to do. I spoke also of a lamp. No one lights a lamp and hides it. Light is meant to be seen, but light does not need to prove itself. It simply shines. Tonight, your heart does not need to shine. It needs to rest. You do not need to be fruitful tonight. You do not need to be insightful. You do not need to be strong. You need to be still. Some who listened that day were healed. Some were confused. Some walked away unchanged. But the seed was planted in all of them, even in those who did not yet understand, even in those who resisted, even in those who were tired. That is the mercy of the sower. He does not wait for perfect soil. He sows. As you lie listening, imagine your heart as ground at dusk, not dry, not demanding, simply open. The day's heat has passed. The footsteps have slowed. The soil cools. This is the moment when seed settles most gently. If your breathing feels shallow, let it deepen slowly. You do not need to control it. It knows how. If your body feels heavy, let it sink. Gravity is not your enemy tonight. This is Luke 8 sleep, where the story does not push toward outcome, but rests in presence. I also spoke of a storm in this chapter, of a boat crossing water, of fear rising quickly. But even there, the lesson was the same. The storm did not define the end. The noise did not cancel the seed. Fear is loud. Growth is quiet. The seed grows even when storms pass overhead. The farmer does not panic because the night is long. He trusts the unseen work. Tonight, trust does not look like effort. It looks like rest. If you have spent your life trying to be productive in every season, let this night be different. Productivity is not the measure of faith. Receptivity is. The listening heart is not busy. It is available, available to rest, available to be held, available to receive without immediately returning something in exchange. This is a rare gift. If you feel the urge to evaluate yourself, am I good soil? Am I listening correctly? Gently release that urge. Evaluation belongs to daylight. Night belongs to rest. The seed will not be offended if you fall asleep. The sower will not be disappointed. Some of the deepest listening happens below awareness. As the night wraps around you, allow the story to continue quietly. Some hearts are tired soil. Tonight, let yours rest, not produce. Tomorrow will come with its own light, its own tasks, its own opportunities for growth. But tonight is not about tomorrow. Tonight is about allowing the soil to breathe. This is gospel bedtime meditation, where the words of Jesus do not demand response, only presence. Stay here as long as you need, or sleep. Both are forms of listening, and listening tonight is enough. The Good Samaritan, Luke 10. Compassion moves quietly. It does not announce itself with noise or demand recognition. It does not hurry past the wounded because the hour is late. It notices what others step around. And sometimes compassion looks like rest. This is where Luke 10 sleep begins. Not with urgency, not with proving goodness, but with the gentle slowing of a heart that chooses care over speed. A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho. The road was known, steep in places, lonely in others. A road people traveled because they had to, not because they wanted to. He fell among robbers. They stripped him, beat him, left him half dead. The story does not tell us his name. It does not tell us his status. It does not tell us whether he deserved help. Pain does not require credentials. As the man lay there, the road continued to exist around him. Dust still moved with the wind. Footsteps still approached and passed. Life did not pause for his suffering. A priest came down that road. He saw the man. This matters. He did not miss him. He did not fail to notice. He saw, but he passed by on the other side. Perhaps he was afraid. Perhaps he was busy. Perhaps he believed someone else would help. The story does not accuse him. It simply shows what happens when duty outruns compassion. A Levite came to the place. He also saw the man. He went closer. He looked. Then he passed by on the other side. Seeing does not always lead to care. Sometimes it leads to distance. This is why compassion is not loud. It does not begin with explanation. It begins with staying. Then a Samaritan came along, a stranger, an outsider, someone who did not share the injured man's background or beliefs. When he saw the man, he was moved with compassion, not obligation, not strategy, compassion. This is the Good Samaritan parable, not told to measure morality, but to reveal the heart of quiet kindness. The Samaritan went to him. He did not ask questions first. He did not calculate risk aloud. He did not wait for permission. He bandaged his wounds, pouring on oil and wine, things he carried for his own journey. Compassion often costs what was meant for later. Then he put the man on his own donkey. He slowed his pace. He changed his plans. He accepted inconvenience. Compassion is rarely efficient. He brought the man to an inn, took care of him through the night. Night care matters. It is easy to help in daylight. Harder to stay when the sun sets, when exhaustion rises, when sleep calls. In the morning, the Samaritan did not disappear. He took out 2 denarii, gave them to the innkeeper. "Look after him," he said. "When I return, I will reimburse you for any extra expense." Compassion does not rush to leave before healing begins. When I finished the story, I asked a simple question. Which of these three do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of robbers? The answer was quiet. The one who had mercy on him. Go and do likewise. But listen carefully. This was not a command to exhaust yourself. It was an invitation to live from a different center. This is Christian kindness meditation, where kindness does not come from pressure, but from presence. Compassion moves quietly. Sometimes it looks like stopping. Sometimes it looks like listening. Sometimes it looks like staying when it would be easier to move on. And sometimes compassion looks like rest, because you cannot pour oil and wine when you are empty. You cannot carry another when you refuse to be carried yourself. You cannot stay through the night if you never allow yourself to sleep. This story is often told to encourage action, but at night it whispers something deeper. Care begins in the heart, and the heart needs rest. If tonight you feel guilty for not doing enough, let that guilt soften. Compassion that comes from guilt burns out quickly. If tonight you feel tired of always being the one who helps, rests later and stays longer, you are seen. The Samaritan did not help because he had endless energy. He helped because his heart was open. Open hearts also need care. The road from Jerusalem to Jericho still exists today. It looks like workplaces where pain is ignored, homes where silence hides suffering, minds where worries lie wounded while tasks rush past. You may have walked past your own pain many times. You saw it. You noticed it. Then you moved on because you felt you had to. Tonight, you are allowed to stop. You are allowed to tend to the wounded places in you. Bandaging does not require explanation. Care does not require productivity. This is Luke 10 sleep, where kindness is not measured by how much you do, but by how gently you listen. As the night deepens, imagine the inn, a place of shelter, a place where the wounded are not questioned, a place where rest is allowed. The man lay there, no longer alone, no longer exposed on the road. Someone stayed. That staying is the heart of compassion. If your thoughts wander to people you could not help, let them rest. If memories arise of moments you wish you had done more, let them soften. Compassion is not perfection. It is presence. The Samaritan did not heal the man completely. He ensured he was not alone. You are not asked to fix everything tonight. You are asked to rest in the presence of care. Sometimes the most compassionate thing you can do is allow yourself to sleep. Sleep restores the ability to care. Sleep replenishes patience. Sleep makes room for mercy. As you listen, let your breathing slow. Each breath is an act of receiving. Receiving care you did not earn. Receiving rest you are allowed. The innkeeper was entrusted with the man's care. Trust matters. You do not have to hold everything alone. There are nights when compassion looks like asking for help. There are nights when compassion looks like letting go. This is Christian kindness meditation, where kindness begins inward and moves outward gently. If you have been the Samaritan too often without being the one cared for, let this night care for you. If you have been lying on the road, unseen and hurting, know this. Compassion sees you. It moves toward you quietly. It does not rush. It does not pass by on the other side. It stays. As sleep approaches, let your body rest in that staying. Let the mind release its grip on unfinished duties. The story does not end with the man walking away healed immediately. It ends with care continuing beyond the moment. That is enough. Compassion does not demand results before rest. It trusts that healing unfolds over time. Tonight, compassion looks like rest, and rest in this quiet place is kindness to your soul. Rich toward God, Luke 12. Your worth is not counted tonight. It is known. The night does not ask for numbers. It does not measure you by what you gathered, achieved, or secured before the light faded. Night is not interested in tallies or totals. Night listens for trust. This is where Luke 12 sleep begins, not in accumulation, not in anxiety, but in release. Release from the quiet fear that whispers you are only as safe as what you can control. Release from the habit of counting worth in things that do not breathe. I spoke to them about a man who had a plentiful harvest, fields heavy with grain, barns filled beyond expectation, success visible, undeniable. The man thought to himself. He did not consult anyone. He did not ask what his abundance was for. He calculated storage, expansion, security. "I will tear down my barns and build bigger ones," he said. "There I will store my surplus grain, and I'll say to myself, you have plenty of grain laid up for many years. Take life easy, eat, drink, and be merry." He counted what he had. He planned what he would keep. He measured his future by what could be stored. But the night arrived anyway. God said to him, "You fool. This very night your life will be demanded from you. Then who will get what you have prepared for yourself?" The story was not told to shame prosperity. It was told to reveal a deeper poverty, the poverty of trust placed in what cannot stay. This is rich toward God, not as a slogan, but as a way of resting the soul. Being rich toward God is not about having less. It is about fearing less. When I spoke these words, I could feel the unease ripple, because many hearts live quietly afraid of not having enough. Enough money, enough time, enough certainty. Fear hides behind planning. It disguises itself as responsibility. It speaks softly, telling you to hold tighter, store more, prepare endlessly. So I spoke again. Do not worry about your life, what you will eat, or about your body, what you will wear. Not because food and clothing do not matter, but because worry does not feed or clothe you. Life is more than food, and the body more than clothes. I asked them to look at the ravens. They do not sow or reap. They have no storeroom or barn, yet God feeds them. You are worth more than many birds. Let that sentence rest. Worth is not something you earn by storing enough. It is something you carry because you are seen. Which of you, by worrying, can add a single hour to your life? The question was gentle, not mocking, inviting. If worry cannot add, why let it take? Then I said something small and tender. Do not be afraid, little flock. Not a command, a reassurance. This is, do not fear, little flock, spoken into tired hearts that felt small against the size of their concerns. Your Father has been pleased to give you the kingdom, not to test you, not to withhold it until you prove yourself, to give. Giving does not require your anxiety. Receiving does not require your vigilance. Sell your possessions and give to the poor, I said. Provide purses for yourselves that will not wear out, a treasure in heaven that will never fail. This was not an instruction to abandon care. It was an invitation to shift trust. Trust away from what rusts, toward what remains. Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. The heart follows what it trusts. If your heart has been running all day, chasing security, measuring outcomes, replaying risks, let it slow. Tonight, you are not asked to be rich in anything visible. Tonight, you are invited to be rich toward God, rich in trust, rich in rest, rich in the quiet confidence that you are known. This is Trust God Bedtime, where trust does not look like certainty about tomorrow, but peace in the present. I also spoke of servants waiting for their master to return from a wedding banquet. They kept their lamps burning. They stayed ready, but listen carefully. Readiness was not frantic. It was calm. They were dressed for service, but not anxious, alert, but not afraid. The master, when he returned and found them ready, did something unexpected. He dressed himself to serve. He had them recline at the table. He came and waited on them. This image was meant to rest the soul. The one you trust to return is also the one who serves. If tonight you feel like you must always be the one prepared, the one responsible, the one who holds everything together, let this image soften you. You are not alone in keeping watch. You are not the only one who cares. The Master serves too. As the night deepens, notice how your body responds to these words. Shoulders lowering, jaw unclenching, breath lengthening. You are not being audited tonight. You are being reassured. Your worth is not counted tonight. It is known. Known before you stored anything. Known before you worried. Known before you planned. If your mind drifts to finances, to responsibilities, to what must be handled tomorrow, let those thoughts rest beside you without engagement. They do not need answers right now. Night does not ask for solutions. It asks for trust. The rich fool counted his grain. The faithful servant trusted his master. The little flock was told not to fear. Which voice will you listen to tonight? Fear says, hold tighter. Trust says, lie down. Fear says, what if there is not enough? Trust says, you are enough to be cared for. This is Luke 12, sleep, where stories do not pressure, but release. If sleep comes, let it come. Sleep is a form of trust. It says, I do not need to stay awake to protect my worth. If wakefulness remains, let it be gentle. There is no test to pass. You are not behind. The barns can wait. The fields can wait. The plans can wait. Your life is not secured by what you store, but by who knows you. And you are known. As the night continues, imagine your hands opening, not dropping responsibility, but releasing control. Control exhausts. Trust restores. This is Trust God Bedtime, not as an idea to master, but as a posture to rest into. Do not be afraid, little flock. Those words are still spoken, still meant for small hearts, still meant for quiet nights. The kingdom is not slipping away while you sleep. It is being given. And giving does not stop when you close your eyes. Your worth is not counted tonight. It is known. Rest in that knowing. Lost, found, rejoiced. Luke 15. Heaven rejoices softly, not loudly. Come home. This is where Luke 15 sleep begins. Not with accusation, not with interrogation, but with welcome. Not with raised voices or public celebration, but with a joy so deep it does not need to shout. I told these stories because people were tired of being measured, tired of being sorted into worthy and unworthy, tired of feeling watched for mistakes instead of waited for with love. So I spoke of what is lost, and of how it is found, and of how heaven responds, not with noise, but with joy that settles like a blanket over the heart. A shepherd had 100 sheep. One wandered away, not dramatically, not in rebellion, just far enough to be alone. The shepherd noticed. That is the first truth. He noticed absence. He did not say, 99 is enough. He did not calculate percentages. He did not minimize the loss. He went after the one that was lost until he found it, not until he felt tired, not until it felt inconvenient, until he found it. And when he found it, he did not scold the sheep. He did not lecture it about danger. He lifted it onto his shoulders, joyfully. This is forgiveness Bible sleep, where forgiveness is not explained, it is carried. The sheep did not walk home on its own strength. It was carried. If tonight you feel like walking back feels impossible, you are not asked to walk. You are invited to be carried. When the shepherd came home, he called his friends and neighbors together. "Rejoice with me," he said. "I have found my lost sheep." And I said, "There will be more rejoicing in heaven over one sinner who repents than over 99 righteous persons who do not need to repent." But listen carefully. The joy is not loud judgment. It is relief. Relief that the one who was alone is no longer alone. Then I spoke of a woman who had 10 silver coins. She lost one. She did not ignore it. She did not say, "9 is enough." She lit a lamp, swept the house, searched carefully until she found it. When she found it, she called her friends and neighbors together. "Rejoice with me," she said. "I have found my lost coin." Coins do not wander. They do not repent. They do not explain themselves. They are simply lost. And still they are searched for. This matters, because sometimes you are not lost because of choice. You are lost because of circumstance, because of fatigue, because of grief, because life shifted faster than you could follow. And still, you are searched for. This is Luke 15, sleep, where value is not diminished by distance, and rest begins with being found. Then I told the longest story, because some losses are not small. They are relational. They involve regret, memory, and longing. A man had 2 sons. The younger one asked for his share of the inheritance. Not later, now. He wanted the gift without the relationship, the freedom without the presence. The father did not argue. He divided his property between them. The son left. He traveled to a distant country. He spent everything. He lived loudly at first, then quietly, then desperately. When the money was gone, famine came. The world that welcomed him while he had something to offer closed its doors when he did not. He found himself feeding pigs, longing to fill his stomach with what they ate, and no one gave him anything. This is not punishment. It is reality. Distance eventually reveals what sustains us. When he came to his senses, he said, "How many of my father's hired servants have food to spare, and here I am starving to death? I will go back to my father." He practiced his speech. He prepared his apology. He lowered his expectations. "I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants." This is the voice many carry into the night. I am no longer worthy. I must earn my way back. I must accept less. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him. This is the turning point. The father was watching, not obsessively, not anxiously, but faithfully. He ran. In that culture, fathers did not run, but love is not bound by custom. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him, kissed him. The son began his speech. "Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy." But the father interrupted, not to correct, but to restore. "Quick," he said, "bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found." This is prodigal son bedtime, not as drama, but as comfort. Notice what is absent. There is no interrogation, no probation period, no delayed acceptance. Restoration comes first. Explanation can wait. Heaven rejoices softly, not loudly. The celebration is not about humiliation. It is about homecoming. If tonight you feel far, not physically but internally, this story is for you. You do not need perfect words. You do not need a complete apology. You need to come home. Home is not a place where your mistakes are forgotten. It is a place where they are no longer used against you. The older son heard the music and dancing. He asked what was happening. When he learned his brother had returned and the father had celebrated, he became angry. He refused to go in. The father went out to him. This matters too. The father goes out to both sons, the one who left loudly, and the one who stayed but grew bitter quietly. The older son said, "All these years I've been slaving for you and never disobeyed your orders, yet you never gave me even a young goat." Resentment often sounds like righteousness. The father replied, "My son, you are always with me, and everything I have is yours." But we had to celebrate, because what was lost has been found. This story is not about favor being taken from one and given to another. It is about joy being shared. Heaven does not celebrate to shame the faithful. It celebrates to restore the lost, and the invitation remains open for both. This is Forgiveness Bible Sleep, where forgiveness is not a transaction, but a return to relationship. As the night deepens, let this truth settle. You are not being evaluated. You are being welcomed. If you have wandered, come home. If you have stayed but grown tired, come inside. If you feel unsure where you belong, come rest. The house is lit. The table is set. The Father is awake. Heaven rejoices softly, not loudly. You may not hear music tonight. You may not feel overwhelming emotion. That is okay. Quiet joy is still joy. Joy that does not overwhelm the nervous system. Joy that allows sleep. This is Luke 15 sleep, where reconciliation does not rush and belonging does not depend on explanation. If your eyes grow heavy, let them close. Sleep is not absence, it is trust. If your mind remains awake, let it rest in the image of open arms. You are not too far. You are not too late. You are not forgotten. Come home and rest there. Humility and prayer. Luke 18. The quiet prayer is heard. The humble heart is lifted. This is where Luke 18 sleep begins. Not in confidence, not in eloquence, not in the strength of words spoken aloud, but in the stillness of a heart that no longer needs to be seen. Night is kind to humility. It strips away the audience. It removes comparison. It leaves only what is real. When I spoke about prayer, I did not begin with instruction on posture or phrasing. I began with a picture. Two people went up to the temple to pray. They stood in the same place. They faced the same direction. They spoke to the same God, but their hearts were worlds apart. One was a Pharisee, respected, disciplined, certain. He stood by himself and prayed, "God, I thank you that I am not like other people, robbers, evildoers, adulterers, or even like this tax collector." He listed his virtues, his fasting, his giving. The prayer was polished, measured, impressive, but it did not descend. This is not because discipline is wrong. It is because prayer is not a performance. Then there was the tax collector. He stood at a distance. He would not even look up to heaven. He beat his breast and said only this, "God, have mercy on me, a sinner." No explanation, no defense, no comparison, just truth. This is the heart of Pharisee and tax collector, not as contrast meant to shame, but as clarity meant to rest the soul. The tax collector did not come to present himself, he came to surrender himself. And I said something that settles gently at night. I tell you that this man, rather than the other, went home justified before God. Not because his life was more ordered, but because his heart was open. For all those who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. Humility is not thinking less of yourself, it is thinking less about yourself. Night invites that release. During the day, the world asks you to explain who you are. At night, you are allowed to simply be. This is humble prayer night, where prayer does not rise because it is loud. but because it is honest. The quiet prayer is heard, not because it is correct, but because it is real. If tonight you feel unworthy to pray, that feeling itself is often the doorway to prayer. The tax collector did not feel ready. He felt exposed, and exposure, when met with mercy, becomes rest. I also spoke of children being brought to me. People tried to stop them. They thought they were protecting me from interruption. But I said, "Let the little children come to me. Do not hinder them. The kingdom belongs to such as these." Children do not arrive with polished prayers. They arrive with need. They do not explain themselves. They do not justify their presence. They trust they are welcome. This is why humility and prayer belong together. Humility removes the pressure to impress. Prayer becomes breath instead of speech. As the night deepens, let your prayer become simpler. You do not need to recount the day in detail. You do not need to fix anything in yourself before you rest. You can whisper mercy. You can rest in silence. You can simply remain present. Prayer does not require words. It can be posture. It can be stillness. It can be the willingness to stop pretending. This is Luke 18 sleep, where prayer is not effort, but release. Later, a rich ruler came to me. He asked what he must do to inherit eternal life. He wanted a checklist, a clear path, a sense of control. When I told him what following truly required, he went away sad, not because the invitation was cruel, but because humility felt like loss. Humility always feels like loss before it feels like freedom. At night, that tension becomes clear. Control keeps the mind awake. Humility allows sleep. If tonight your thoughts keep returning to what you should have done better, let them soften. Perfection is not the doorway to rest. Honesty is. The Pharisee prayed standing tall. The tax collector prayed bowed low. Only one went home lighter. This is not because God prefers shame. It is because God responds to truth. Truth does not inflate. Truth releases. If your heart feels heavy tonight, consider whether it is carrying something it no longer needs to prove. You do not need to be right before you are received. You do not need to be strong before you are heard. The quiet prayer is heard, even when it is unfinished, even when it is whispered, even when it is only a sigh. I also spoke of persistence in prayer, of a widow who kept coming to a judge, not because she trusted him, but because she refused to give up hope. Yet even there, the lesson was not about exhausting effort. It was about trust that justice does not depend on volume. God hears before you repeat yourself. If you have prayed the same prayer many nights, rest. Repetition does not mean failure. It means longing. Longing is not weakness. It is relationship. As you listen now, allow your shoulders to drop. Allow your breath to slow. Prayer does not begin with speaking. It begins with stopping. Night makes room for that stopping. If your mind wanders, let it wander gently. You do not need to pull it back harshly. Harshness has no place in prayer. The tax collector did not force his words. They fell from him. God, have mercy. That was enough. If tonight you cannot pray more than that, it is enough. Mercy is not rationed. Mercy is not delayed. It meets humility where it rests. This is humble prayer night, where rest and prayer become the same movement. To rest is to say, I do not need to justify myself right now. To pray is to say, I am willing to be known. Both require trust. As the night continues, let your prayer become lighter. You may fall asleep mid-thought. You may wake briefly and return to stillness. That is not neglect. That is trust practiced in the body. The humble heart is lifted, not lifted into attention, lifted out of burden, lifted away from comparison, lifted into peace. This is Luke 18 sleep, where humility is not humiliation, and prayer is not performance. You are not being evaluated tonight. You are being held. The quiet prayer is heard, even now. And because it is heard, you can rest. Let sleep come without fear. Let silence remain without pressure. Mercy does not leave when words stop. It stays, and that is enough. I am with you. Luke 19:20. My stories do not end when you sleep. They remain. I remain. Rest now, child of God. Night is not the closing of a book. It is the gentle folding of a page. What has been spoken does not disappear when your eyes close. It settles. It waits. It continues its quiet work within you. This is where Jesus' parable sleep finds its rest, not in an ending, but in presence, not in finality, but in faithfulness that stays when words grow soft and thoughts slow. When I entered Jericho, a man climbed a tree. Zacchaeus was small in stature but heavy with longing. He wanted to see me, but the crowd was thick, and shame stood taller than he did. So he climbed, not elegantly, not proudly, just high enough to see. I looked up. This matters. I did not scan the crowd for the most deserving face. I did not wait for the loudest voice. I saw the one hidden above the noise. Zacchaeus, come down immediately. I must stay at your house today. I did not say, fix your life first. I did not say, explain yourself. I said, I must stay. This is the heart of words of Jesus' bedtime. Words that do not hurry past the overlooked. Words that choose presence over judgment. Zacchaeus came down at once and welcomed me gladly. Joy came quickly. Change followed naturally. When presence is received, transformation does not need force. Tonight, you do not need to climb higher to be seen. You do not need to rise above others. You are already noticed. As I continued toward Jerusalem, crowds followed. Some hoped for spectacle. Some hoped for power. Some simply hoped. I told another story. A man of noble birth went to a distant country to have himself appointed king, and then to return. He called 10 of his servants and gave them 10 minas. Put this money to work, he said, until I come back. But his subjects hated him. They sent a delegation after him to say, we do not want this man to be our king. Even here, resistance was present. Not everyone welcomes authority rooted in service. Not everyone trusts power that does not dominate. The story unfolded slowly, revealing responsibility, accountability, and faithfulness. But beneath it all was a quieter truth. Absence does not mean abandonment. Waiting does not mean forgetting. The king returns, not to erase what was done in his absence, but to reveal what remained faithful. As the night deepens, this truth settles gently. You are not forgotten between moments of awareness. You are not absent when you sleep. Presence does not flicker with consciousness. I also wept over Jerusalem. I stood looking at the city and said, if you, even you, had only known on this day what would bring you peace. Peace was offered, peace was near, but it was overlooked. This is not condemnation, it is grief, the grief of love when it is misunderstood. Even so, love does not withdraw. Love stays. As I entered the temple, I did not come to perform. I came to restore. I overturned tables not out of anger alone, but out of desire for purity, for a space where prayer could breathe again. My house will be a house of prayer. Prayer is not noise. Prayer is openness. This is Christian sleep narration full Bible, where prayer is not forced, but received. As I taught in the temple courts, the leaders questioned my authority. By what authority are you doing these things? They asked. I answered with a question. Truth does not always argue. Sometimes it invites reflection. Night is a place for that reflection, not debate, not defense. Listening, I spoke of tenants again, of rejection, of a son sent and cast out. The stone the builders rejected became the cornerstone. Rejection did not end the story. It clarified it. If tonight you feel misunderstood, remember this. Being rejected does not mean being removed from purpose. Sometimes it means you are foundational in ways not yet seen. Then they tried to trap me with questions about taxes. Should we pay or not? I asked for a coin. Whose image is this? Caesar's. Give to Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what is God's. The image on the coin determined where it belonged. You bear a different image. You belong to God. That belonging does not pause when you sleep. It does not depend on alertness. It is constant. As the Sadducees questioned me about resurrection, they tried to limit eternity with logic. But life beyond death cannot be contained by arguments. God is not the God of the dead, but of the living. All live to Him. Even when you sleep, even when you are unaware, even when your mind is quiet. I warned my followers about teachers who loved recognition. They liked flowing robes and public respect. But I watched a widow place 2 small coins into the offering, all she had. Her gift was quiet, unimpressive by numbers, but heavy with trust. She gave out of poverty, not abundance. I noticed. This is Jesus' parable's sleep, where the smallest acts are seen, and rest is not dependent on scale. Then I spoke of the future, of days that would be difficult, of upheaval, of endurance, but always, always, with reassurance. Stand firm, and you will gain life. Firmness does not mean tension. It means rootedness. Roots do not strain. They rest in the soil. Night is where roots drink deeply. As the lamps of the city dimmed and shadows stretched long, the disciples listened quietly. They did not understand everything. That was okay. Understanding is not required for trust. Trust is allowed to be simple. As you listen now, perhaps your eyes are heavy. Perhaps your thoughts drift. Let them. My stories do not end when you sleep. They are not dependent on your attention. They work beneath it, like seeds in the soil, like yeast in dough, like oil in lamps. They remain. I remain. This is words of Jesus' bedtime, where the voice does not fade when awareness does. If sleep comes now, let it come. Sleep is not absence. It is presence, experienced differently. Your breathing continues. Your heart keeps rhythm. Your soul rests. You are not leaving anything behind by sleeping. You are entering trust. If wakefulness lingers, remain gentle. There is no requirement to stay alert. No need to guard the night. The one who keeps watch does not grow tired. I am with you when you wake. I am with you when you sleep. I am with you when you remember. I am with you when you forget. My stories do not end when you sleep. They remain in the quiet places. They remain in the deep. They remain in the waiting. And I remain. Rest now, child of God. The night holds you, but it does not own you. Morning will come in its time. Until then, you are not alone, not for a moment. Sleep in peace. I am with you.